following program is intended for mature audiences.
Rudy's Revelation.
I don't necessarily buy the premise there, Margaret.
Conspiracy. No, that is a conspiracy.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Rudy's Revelation podcast. It is Friday. Happy Friday. February 7th, right? Happy Friday. So the establishment is rushing to block more auditing of the U.S. federal government. What could go wrong? Thanks for joining me today. This is going to be a truncated early episode of Rudy's Revelation. Stay with me now as I run through the headlines for today, Friday, February 7th. All right, we're going to start out with the Wall Street Journal. An exclusive: White House prepares order to cut thousands of federal health workers. The executive order could come as soon as next week if the Trump administration goes through with its plans, which I hope they do. This is an auditing and a gutting of the wasteful, grift-laden federal government. Next story up from the New York Times: Trump administration, nearly all jobs are said to be cut at U.S. aid. Well, I am not shedding a tear. For a long time, I have railed against the CIA and its non-covert group, USAID, which is the United States International Development Agency. The New York Post: federal judge limits Doge access to Treasury Department payment records as member of Musk's team quits over offensive posts. Okay, this guy, the Doge guy, is a 25-year-old or 27-year-old, excuse me, young man whose X account, I guess, was a Twitter account from a decade ago, which has since been deleted, but somehow they found this guy's racist posts. You know what? What people post when they're young men shouldn't have, stuff like this shouldn't even be reported on. It's, first of all, it's freedom of speech, which means basically that you could post anything you like, any opinion you might have. And since the boss doesn't care, airing someone's dirty laundry shouldn't matter either. Now, this story, like other stories, I'm not going to get into this story, but this story, like other stories, doesn't mention the posts. So I would have to see the post to get a good idea of how bad necessarily somebody posting something, how bad that reflects on their character today. So the establishment is striking back against the auditing. And why is that? Because they went after low-hanging fruit in U.S. aid, which was ripe for the picking. It was open for the picking. That they uncovered not just wasteful spending, but questionable spending. Now, the Democrats are saying, oh, well, it's all for starving children in Africa. No, because there was money that was going to media groups out of U.S. aid. Why? Because that's where the funding for intelligence agency propaganda comes from, whether it's abroad or here in the United States. There are other agencies connected to the intelligence community, like Radio Free Liberty or Radio America, those organizations as well. All right, Semaphore is reporting Doge follows longtime Musk pattern and turns attention to Social Security Administration. So that's next on the chopping block. He's going to go line by line. So he's been barred already from the Treasury just for looking at financial information. And what does this financial information say? The financial information says that people have been paid for work they did not perform. Organizations have been paid for God knows what. And we're going to get into that in just a second. But Musk is going, he went first to the Treasury Department to figure out where the money is going. And then he's going to go, using that information, go agency to agency and try to follow the money. It's the same thing when we were investigating 9/11. What we said is follow the money. And what the deep state, the establishment, returned with was it is of no consequence where the money comes from, where the money goes, etc. All right, Semaphore goes on to say, Elon Musk's Doge shuttered U.S. aid. It has searched Medicare payments and gained access to sensitive Treasury Department payment system. That's another thing, is why are people getting paid by the U.S. federal government? Why is that information sensitive? Its initial Labor Department presence prompted a lawsuit, and it's just getting started. The Social Security Administration is an upcoming focus of the Department of Government Efficiency, a source with knowledge of its work told Semaphore. So, great journalism, Semaphore, with another anonymous source. And one person involved in Doge is currently preparing work with the agency that provides benefits to the elderly and disabled. So this is where the liberals are going. You're hurting the vulnerable. And that's not really true, because there is a mountain of waste and fraud that has been known to be occurring, and previous administrations have done nothing, because it's the velocity of money that creates wealth. So you have to keep that spigot open. So it doesn't matter if the money changes hands by fraud or graft or legitimacy or legitimate treasury payments, that money has to keep flowing. Right? Another captured legacy media organization Axios, Trump orders key government agency to cancel all media contracts. Now, again, this is from U.S. aid, because it's one thing to spend $2 million on a year on digital subscriptions, which I don't know how many people that equates to, but we don't know what that money, what the reciprocation is for that money. It is $2 million. It's not like $50,000, which would be more in line of the number of subscriptions per year needed by government officials. And if government officials need to access Politico, they should maybe get their own subscription. New York Times is reporting Trump amplifies conspiracy theory over payments to Politico. President Donald Trump spread unfounded claims. So there we go again with the claims. Claims are generally understood as being unsubstantiated. That's why it's a claim and not Truth spread unfounded claims that the government had paid Politico and other news media outlets for positive coverage of Democrats. Records show agency paid for subscriptions. It's so innocuous. The reality here is that we don't know what the government paid news organizations for. As I just went down the line, it's supposed to be innocuous. They're just subscriptions. That's not plausible deniability. That's not covering up for something probably more than likely more nefarious. The story goes on to say, though, President Trump amplified unfounded claims, again, on Thursday that the government had been paying news media outlets to generate positive coverage of Democrats. The conspiracy theories appear to have generated by records showing payments for something much more innocuous, subscription. $2 million worth of subscriptions. Mr. Trump said on Truth Social site that billions of dollars from USAID and other agencies had improperly gone to fake news media. He spread the claim that Politico, a left-wing rag, had received $8 million and questioned if the New York Times and other outlets have also received payments. Did they? Well, Charlie Statlander, spokesman for the Times, that's the New York Times, said in a statement that the only federal funds, and see how the New York Times uses the word only, because it's not a quote, the only federal funds the company receives were for subscriptions like Politico, which have been bought by both Democrat and Republican administrations including during President Trump's first term. The amount of revenue from federal subscriptions is less than 1/1000th of the Times' annual revenue. Where is the dollar figure? I don't care. It's like when Maggie Brennan said, oh, USAID, their budget is only 1% of the federal budget. Well, the federal budget is $4 trillion a year. So 1% of $4 trillion is 40 billion with a B. That's significant. So now that's significant. But now the New York Times says, oh, it's only 1/1000th of the Times' annual revenue. So it's part of their revenue. How much was it? Was it in the millions per year? That's a significant amount. So the New York Times, they need subscriptions to the New York Times and Politico. And anybody outside of the press secretary's department, communications department, shouldn't need to have subsidized news subscriptions subsidized by the taxpayer. Still, the payments to news organizations stoke conspiracy theories. I don't know what they said more, conspiracy theory or unfounded claims. Conspiracy theories and unfounded claims that reach Trump officials and other conservative voices. Elon Musk, the head of the team seeking to cut government spending, said on Wednesday that the payments were not an efficient use of taxpayer funds. Taxpayer funds. No, it certainly isn't. The point is that this is a government audit. And so I hope when we get to the Pentagon, which I'm sure is coming probably last, what will we find there? Because with the budget for the CIA is not public, so, and that's, I'm sure Musk was getting to that before he was barred from the Treasury Department. I don't think the funds for the CIA come right out of the Treasury. It's hard to say, but interesting. Bloomberg is reporting Trump fires head of federal election panel, but she won't leave. Ellen Weintraub, a frequent critic of Trump, wrote on social media, received a letter from POTUS today purporting to remove me as commissioner and chair. There's a legal way to replace FEC commissioners. This isn't it. She added, he is the commander in chief. If you work for, how many times do I have to say this in the past couple of weeks? If you work for the federal government, the president is your boss, period. National Review reports Doge subcommittee to kick off war on waste with hearing on COVID fraud. Well, this is good news because is there government waste going on? I believe there is. Was there government waste in COVID? They didn't even spend all the money they appropriated. And a majority of it went to fraud. PJ Media is reporting Elizabeth Warren destroyed by ex-community notes over pharma corruption. And I don't really have to get on this or even show the community notes to know that, like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren is a hypocrite. So when I was on the left, a Democrat some time ago, and I liked Bernie, and I thought Elizabeth Warren was doing the people's work by railing against big corporations like banks. But when the time came to audit the Fed, she said no. And so did Bernie Sanders voted no. So if you don't know, the Federal Reserve is not federal. It is a consortium of major banks that loan the government money. That's how it works. That's why Trump can't fire Jerome Powell, because you can appoint, or you have some say purportedly over the board of directors, board chairman, whatever. But it's not a federal agency, so you can't really fire. Wall Street Journal reports Doge staffer resigns over racist posts. The employee had links to a deleted social media account that advocated for racism and eugenics. Well, I'm not going to bat for this person. I don't know this person. But it's a deleted social media account. So how did they find it? How did they find this information? You know, obviously people found out who this tech person was that was spearheading the inquiries into the databases of the Treasury Department, etc. And so they wanted to smear him. So they got him to resign. There are more techies that work for Musk that can easily take over whatever this guy was doing. And people have to be reminded that what Musk is doing is exactly what he did at Twitter when he came into Twitter, and that's where the Twitter files came out, is that he knows how to dig into databases, as he did with Twitter. And he didn't even make public all the nefarious things that Twitter was up to. And I begged him on X time and time again. I'm not going to digress. PJ Media is reporting, could we be witnessing the end of liberal media? That is the question posed by PJ Media. When the federal government is paying supposedly independent media public-private partnership. Legacy media is owned by corporations. Corporations and the government work together. That's what makes it corporate fascism. And so the government, supposedly, if you listen to Liz Warren, is supposed to be working against the corporations for your benefit, when it's just the opposite. They're working together to keep you ignorant and poor. The Federalist is reporting Doge is deadly to the swamp, an ray of light for the American taxpayer. Indeed. We're getting a much better look at the cancer killing this republic. The Doge proving to be a pretty powerful MRI. And so they're talking basically about Musk, and of course the Democrats and the liberals, the people that are the chief spenders in in the political milieu. It's liberals who like to spend liberally because they get kickbacks, they get money out of it, they skim. So Doge is doing an audit of the federal government, which he was charged to do, and everybody knew it was coming. They just didn't believe that he'd uncover what he uncovered so quickly, because all these things are nested in innocuous fronts and subscriptions. The payments are labeled as things that are innocuous when we don't know what they're necessarily buying. $2 million a year for digital subscriptions, it doesn't cost the newspaper any more money for a digital subscription. You're not paying for newsprint or delivery. It's just access to the site. Wall Street Journal reports judge pauses deadline for federal worker buyout offer. Hearing scheduled for Monday on whether to grant temporary restraining order. So they're fighting back. And the administration that is working within the Constitution, it's not like Joe Biden, who is just forgiving federal loans to students and putting moratoriums on landlords, moratorium on evictions, and then mandating vaccines for people that don't work for the federal government. Those things were all unconstitutional. And now President Donald Trump is telling employees, hey, look, you're all getting fired. You take the buyout now, or there's no guarantee that you'll get a severance other than whatever, 2 weeks. Take the buyout. The Federalist is reporting, oh snap, billions of taxpayer dollars blown on free food fraud. So what's going on here? I'm just going to go through it easily and quickly. So these fraudsters gained access to the program by misappropriating identification numbers that had been assigned to stores participating in SNAP legitimately. The fraudster used these misappropriated numbers to work around the rules of SNAP and abuse the program by trading benefits for cash in her store. It is illegal to buy or sell SNAP benefits or to exchange them for anything other than eligible food items. This was nearly $2 million at just one store. Investigators should keep looking because we know SNAP fraud is rampant. So this is just $2 million in fraud just at one store. And there are thousands of stores across the country that take advantage of this program. Wall Street Journal is reporting the early verdict on tariffs. Bad economics, better politics. The markets concluded in their great wisdom that tariffs on Mexico and Canada would hurt the economy and raise prices, but they got both countries to act. Keep saying, and maybe the Wall Street Journal could listen to me, the threat of a tariff is not a tariff. So tariffs are a good political tool that should be used, that can be used effectively. And tariffs as a whole, targeted tariffs particularly, are not bad for the economy. We've had tariffs on China since Trump's first administration, and it wasn't bad for the economy, particularly during Trump's first term. So I don't agree with the Wall Street Journal. Markets don't like tariffs. And multinational corporations don't like tariffs. They like free trade. But the American taxpayer likes tariffs. BBC is reporting top criminal court condemns U.S. sanctions on officials. So the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, has vowed to continue its judicial work after U.S. President Donald Trump signed an order to impose sanctions on its staff. The ICC said it stands firmly by its personnel and the orders seeks to harm its independent and impartial work. I don't think so. Trump's order accuses it of illegitimate and baseless actions after the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Israel denies. The ICC also issued a warrant for Hamas commander. Just to be on the safe side, I don't think the ICC, unless it's egregious, the ICC was just echoing what protesters in this country were saying, that it's genocide. Is it? Isn't it? Israel was clearly attacked first in a brazen attack. There's a lot of info surrounding that attack on October 7th that kind of delegitimizes Israel's response. However, there was an attack, so they responded to the attack in a heavy-handed way, perhaps, but hostages were taken. So on the surface, Israel's response is legitimate. Sorry. There's more to dig up there, but I'm not going to get into that now. One American News, Trump requests to end tax perks for billionaire sports team owners and hedge fund managers, offsetting no tax on tips and Social Security cuts. Well, good. Trump seems to be a populist, so I don't think he's going to let all the elite off the hook for anything. But not according to the New York Times, who says Senate confirms Russell Vogt as Office of Management and Budget Director. Mr. Vogt, at least the original article had Mr. Vogt was the architect of the Project 2025. That's the Heritage Foundation's roadmap for administrations. And Trump said he's not going to follow Project 2025, but they keep bringing it up anyway. Mr. Vogt, an architect for Project 2025, who served in the first Trump administration, will be at the center of Trump's plans to upend the federal bureaucracy. He's going to be there green lighting everything that Doge is doing and taking the recommendations from Doge, making them public and putting them into action to claw back some of the federal spending. New York Post is reporting illegal border crossings have plummeted 90% since Trump returned to the White House. Border Patrol chief says. This is a good story here. The left never ceases to amaze. I was talking to my brother about this the other day. I was trying to convince him, because he has personally affected by it, that the left, in all its lunacy, has been undermined and brainwashed, controlled, influenced by a Fabian socialist, really a Maoist cultural revolutionary plan that doesn't have their best interest at heart. Of course not. So the Washington Free Beacon says, Michigan state representative says she sterilized herself to protest Trump. So anyway, who else is excited for the new Lady Gaga album? Oh, brother. An idiot. Idiot. Well, idiots sterilizing themselves. Not shedding a tear over that. What I am shedding a tear over, or certainly sharing some concern over, just the news is reporting a new strain of bird flu infections found in Nevada herds of dairy cattle, first time in U.S. This is disturbing because if you think the deep state and the establishment and the global left, of the Jacobins and the secret societies, if you think they're going to let Donald Trump and Elon Musk and this administration gut the federal spigot or turn off the federal spigot of fraudulent, or I should say, the theft of taxpayer dollars fraudulently, there's another thing coming. Sure. Express US, bird flu panic as newer deadly strain emerges, humans at risk of more severe illness. Are they going to drop a new deadly bird flu? I wouldn't doubt it. So gird your loins. Who knows what their frustration will lead to? Desperate people take desperate action. Speaking of toxicity, Fox News is reporting Fetterman says Democratic Party brand is toxic thanks to constant shaming and scolding. We've heard this before from him. Pennsylvania Democratic senator admitted he can't see the party winning back young men. People might be getting more stupid, but they're certainly intellectually more sophisticated. Another victory from One American News. Bankruptcy judge rejects Sandy Hook family's latest settlement proposal in Alex Jones case. It's not over yet. So if you don't know what happened, in his bankruptcy, he was supposed to auction off InfoWars, the studios and all the stuff, the store. And that money was supposed to go to Sandy Hook families, but the Sandy Hook families didn't want the money. They wanted Alex Jones shut down and then to garnish any money he made ever again in his life. The bankruptcy judge says, well, wait a second here. You're proposing that you would get very little or no money in comparison to this auction offer. So the judge already said that that's BS. The whole reason to auction off his business in bankruptcy court is to give you guys money, and now you don't want the money? I thought you were hurt emotionally by Alex Jones. That's what the civil trial said. And so for your pain and suffering, you're supposed to be given money, billions apparently, and you don't want the money. So the whole thing seems suspect from the beginning. Now, Just the News reports ICE on pace for 1 million arrests in 4 years, but Congress likely to fund expansion. So what they're reporting here is that Congress is going to expand the efforts of ICE. Probably after, it'll probably be included with one of these other reconciliation bills. Federalist is reporting we still need answers to the many unanswered questions about January 6th. This is going to be a hard nut to crack because the January 6th committee destroyed all their evidence. But they are questions that need to be answered. I'll just go through the questions. Because they reported here that there are all sorts of factual errors. The serious questions never investigated by the subcommittee. Why did Democrat congressional leaders turn down repeated offers of National Guard troops to protect the Capitol that day? Why was security so lax outside the Capitol despite expectations of a large demonstration? How many FBI informants and undercover federal law enforcement or military were in the crowd? What communications did the FBI or former FBI informants have with the protest organizers ahead of the event? Why wasn't the then Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund turned against the investigation, told there were federal informants in the crowd? Why did the U.S. Capitol Police open the doors and allow demonstrators into the building? Why did federal law enforcement authorities demand cell phone location data for the thousands of people who were outside the Capitol but broke no laws. Why does the FBI still have no idea who planted the pipe bombs near the headquarters of the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee on the evening of January? Because these answers would surely show what that riot and event was really about. It was a Trump rally to protest the election results and rules that gave us Joe Biden as president for 4 years. It was a rally. But that rally, which had been long time planned and long time coming for months, was immediately seized upon by law enforcement to use. To some success, I might add. But most of the people see it for what it is. Zero hedge, microplastics found in brain weighs as much as a plastic spoon. So if you don't know, our environment is full of poisons that leach into your body, and it causes you to become stupid and ill. So drink out of glass when you can. I mean, it's everywhere. The problem is it's inescapable. The Wall Street Journal is reporting State Farm was all in on California until it pulled the plug before the fires. Like months before, the insurer aggressively grew in Los Angeles despite getting overweight on fire risk, but decided to cut thousands of policies last year, adding to the state's home insurance crisis. Well, actually, what they were doing was they knew the fire was coming. So obviously the fire had been planned months ahead of time, and the insurance company heads knew about it, and they canceled all the policies. They didn't cancel policies after the Paradise Fire, right? They didn't look at Maui and say, hey, that could happen here. Well, cancel the policies years ago, months before the fire. Wall Street Journal also reports it's Russian men against Ukrainian machines on the battlefield in Ukraine. Desperately short of infantry, Kiev is using aerial drones to pick off Russian infantry. It's slowing but not stopping the Russian invasion. This is the first drone war, first robot war. And they will become increasingly as such. Right. This was a truncated episode, 35 minutes. Early and truncated. I got some work got to do today. Well, all weekend actually, but I got to start today. So I need to get the hell out of here and get things done. Make some money. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the podcast. Remember, you're under attack psychologically and biologically. Join me every day, Monday through Friday, live streamed on Rumble at 10 a.m. Or like, I don't know, on Mondays it's like 10:30. Check out the Rudy's Revelation podcast on social media, X, Facebook, Get Our Minds, True Social, Substack. Check out my other website, libpop.org, learn about libertarian populism. I will see you next week. Thanks again for joining me today. Stay hip to the trick. I'll see you next week. Respect.
I'm Donald Trump. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
You can't handle the truth. This is all a conspiracy. Oh, that is a conspiracy.
A new world order.